Time for a daily rant, and it's the Young Turks' turn to do it. Our fiery friend identifying the real fiscal conservatives in this country. Mr. Ugert, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dylan. As it turns out, I happen to be about one of three remaining fiscal conservatives in the country. Almost no one else qualifies. I'm going to show you now why that's the case. And certainly the people that qualify the least are the Republican Party, who are giant hypocrites on the deficit and on the budget. Let me show you the numbers. James Kwok did a brilliant analysis of this at the baseline scenario. First, he picked out the 5 biggest budget-busting programs in the last 10 years. Here they are. In 2001, there was the gigantic tax cuts that went predominantly to the rich. $1.3 trillion it's cost us since to the point of 2011. That is by far the biggest damage we did to the budget. Then in 2003, another round of tax cuts, $354 billion. Medicare Part D, $271 billion. And then in 2009, the stimulus package cost $793 billion, and then 2010 tax cut was $374 billion. Now, keep in mind, those are only the numbers through 2011, okay? Over a span of 10 years, they're going to cost a hell of a lot more than that. So who voted for these programs? Well, as you're about to find out, both sides, but predominantly Republicans. For the 2001 tax cuts, Democrats, 18% of Democrats voted for them. 93% of Republicans did. And remember, that caused the biggest problem in our budget. The 2003 tax cuts, 3% of Democrats voted for it, 94% of Republicans voted for it. Medicare Part D, 17% of Democrats, 88% of Republicans. 2009 stimulus, that's a Democratic program, gets 100% from the Democrats, 5% of the Republicans voted for it. Then the 2010 tax cuts, well, both sides loved it, but the Republicans loved it more. 77% of Democrats and 87% of Republicans. Now, when you tally these numbers up, and these are conservative estimates because it does not include Iraq and Afghanistan. Those are two giant costs largely driven by the Republican Party, but there was not one single vote on it. There were a series of votes, so Kwok did not include them in the numbers. They would skew the numbers even worse against the Republicans. But even on this conservative estimate, when you look at the overall numbers, the Democrats could have voted for $127 trillion in debt, the current Democratic senators, and they voted yes on 64 trillion of that. So that is approximately 50% that they voted yes on, okay, in causing the debt. When you go to the Republicans, much worse. They could have voted on $104 trillion in debt, and they voted for $70 trillion of it. That is approximately 67% of the Republicans who voted yes to blow up the deficits. Now, me, I would have voted against almost every single one of those proposals. I would have voted yes on stimulus, but I hated even a third of that. So I'm an actual fiscal conservative. I want to balance the budget. The Republicans have never wanted to balance the budget, and they never have balanced the budget. Real quick, let's look at the numbers for the presidents. Ronald Reagan, he caused a $1.7 trillion deficit. That is the accumulated deficit under the Reagan's 8 years. George H.W. Bush, in only 4 years, caused a $1.1 trillion deficit. Clinton brings it way down to $884 billion because he had giant surpluses by the end of his two terms. And then Bush, of course, George W. Bush, $2.1 trillion in deficits, taking giant surpluses and making them record deficits. The Republicans have never voted in favor of really reducing the deficit. They say they want to stop the deficit. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. They got no interest in it. All they ever do is blow up our budget.